color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Every NHRA Championship drag race is a visual and sensory experience for both the racer and the fans. But one stands out above all others, the granddaddy of them all, the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. Why are these fans so excited? Why are the racers going to try harder here today than they do anywhere else? Well, this is the original drag race. Dates back to 1955. It's the biggest purse ever paid, $1.4 million, 1,000 cars in competition, the biggest crowd to ever see a drag race. But for some, it's because this race pays 1.5 times the normal Winston Drag Racing Series points. And that could be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the season. So every racer in this pit is going for maximum performance today. Right, Paul Page?
Well, Steve, as you've suggested, this is the most important event in drag racing. And when you have that kind of importance, they just naturally try harder. And here we have the fastest top fuel field in the history of drag racing and the fastest funny car field as well. Now, here's some numbers to consider. Kenny Bernstein, funny car, fastest qualifier with a 5:33 in top fuel. It's Eddie Hill as the quick qualifier with a 5:08, both of those qualifying records. And Dick LaHaye's top fuel in with a 283-mile-an-hour pass, also a track record. Now, when you have track records being turned in qualifying, you can look ahead to some national records being broken in the event. Now, remember, it's not just the driver. It's crews like this. This is Austin Coyle's crew working on John Force's funny car as they change the engine. And because we feel these crews are so important, once again, I'll be on the starting line to interview the chiefs after the runs. Now, let's look ahead to what we might expect in second round. Here's Don Garlitz.
Well, Paul, as we head into the second round of funny car action, the pressure has got to be on this man, Dale Armstrong. His car ran 5:40. The competitor, Dale Pauldie, ran 5:41. That means Dale has got to find that little bit of elusive ET to give Kenny that little bit of an advantage so that he can stay in this race and stay in that points championship. Now, the top fuel is another story. What an exciting first round, an average of 5:16 ET for all 8 winners. But the two pairs that stand out in my mind for round 2 are Eddie Hill versus Joe Amato. Amato does not have lane choice. And Darrell Gwynn versus Dick LaHaye. And Gwynn doesn't have lane choice. Now, either one of these two cars go out in this second round, their quest for the points championship will be in jeopardy. So they've got to do their best.
Well, Don, here is that matchup you just talked about. This is Eddie Hill's car being fired up. The bright yellow machine has won 2 championships this year. And, of course, as you said, he will be up against Joe Amato. Now, historically, the left lane or near lane has been the quickest at this racetrack for the last 15, 20 years. But Eddie Hill in the right or far lane in that yellow car has lane choice. And Don Garlitz, he has selected the far lane. What do you think?
Well, it could be that he made his good qualifying pass in that lane. But that's not a good move. That lane has always been just a little marginal when you really go after it.
Well, that's what 4,000 horsepower looks like on the burnout, laying down some hot, sticky rubber, grooming their own lane, as it were.
One of the things that the crew chiefs are very concerned about here at the U.S. Nationals today is there's a cloud cover over the track. The temperature is only about 70 degrees, the relative humidity at 70%. Most important, there's about a 10-mile-an-hour headwind blowing right straight down the track. It's very hard to make some judgments.
Eddie Hill was the national record holder at 5.06 seconds until a few weeks ago in Seattle, Washington, when Darrell Gwynn took it away with a 5.05. Crew chief on the Wichita Falls, Texas-based team is Buzzy Carter.
And they face the defending U.S. Nationals champion from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, Joe Amato. Now, that car and team is chiefed by this man, Tim Richards. Together, they have had some magnificent successes. Will they reoccur today?
And they have won, Paul, 3 NHRA national events this season. But more importantly, they've gone to the final so many times that they have the points lead over Darrell Gwynn, who has won 4 championships. But when he's off, he's way off. And speaking of off, that's where Eddie Hill has been until just this weekend when he got back into the groove.
And you look down the quarter mile of the U.S. Nationals, you can see on the roll cage that tiny Diamond P camera on board. It will ride with Eddie Hill as they hit the throttle on this run.
Tremendous pressure on this run. Joe Amato knows that if he gets beat by Hill, he's going to have to lose a lot of points.
Absolutely. You're riding with Eddie Hill, and suddenly there is Joe Amato streaking by. Eddie Hill has some problems. Joe Amato wins the race. Oh, my. Low elapsed time of the entire event. Another new track record, 5.07, 280 miles per hour. Paul's at the starting line.
Here's Tim Richards. Tim, Joe with a 5:07. You got to be happy with that one.
We're certainly happy about that run. We didn't really know how that was going to come out. We had a real lot of heat in the motor after the first run. We really didn't know what the outcome would have been here.
Left lane is traditionally good here. It looks like it still is.
Oh, I think that's historical now.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
That's one of the few smiles I see on Tim Richards' face at these races. Eddie Hill makes a beautiful start. You can see him move, but that's all there is to it. That far lane gives up again, just like it traditionally does, and Amato streaks to a beautiful victory with a 5:07.
Joe Amato, I have good news for you. Low elapsed time of the U.S. Nationals, 5:07.
Thank God. 50 more points, but running Eddie Hill in the second round, that's like the finals almost. I mean, you know, he's the low ET qualifier. You know, the only way you can get out of there is beat him. And Tim Richards, they rebuilt that motor, made it like brand new, and they told me they need me to do the job, and that puts a lot of pressure on Joe Amato.
Tim Richards said he was worried. He came here with a high compression engine, figuring on the usual bad air and hot temperatures. He got just the opposite.
Yeah, I know. The weather here has been really tricky to figure out, but, you know, I got an excellent crew, and Tim and all the guys, and they're doing a good job, and keeps the pressure on Joe Amato. You know, this car has been here to the final and won, and I've been here, so hopefully we can do it again.
Can you set a record?
It's possible. The weather's going to stay like this. You know, he's going to have to just tweak it a little more. It'll be real interesting.
Okay, Joe.
Back at the starting line, round 2 action continues. Here's a man who is very happy to be back in a race car. Former funny car driver, now in Top Fuel, Frank Hawley. He faces this man, Gary Ormsby.
Ormsby hasn't had a real good year, but he's got a very old-fashioned car, in my opinion. The car that he had that was really modern, the Streamliner, you remember a couple of years ago, gave him a lot of trouble, and it's just kind of set him back.
Well, down here at the far end, Joe Amato and his crew, they're continuing to celebrate that track record. There's a good friend of Joe's, Nick Paciulli, and he made these T-shirts without Amato's knowledge back-to-back in '88. Joe said, they're a jinx, get him out of my pit. Well, it looks like he's changed his mind.
Back at the starting line, Frank Hawley backing up, putting his machine in position. Gary Ormsby doing the same a little further down the track. Now, this is a critical moment. They've warmed up the tires. The engine is coming up to temperatures, and one of the crew will guide him to the point on the launching pad that they think will give him the best traction. Frank Hawley, now in a Top Fuel dragster. He beat Jim Head, who has also moved over to Top Fuel. Bill Walter is the crew chief on the Hawley car. They face Gary Ormsby, who qualified 15th, beat Laurie Johns, a rookie coming into this round. He is chiefed by Lee Beard, who is a former racer himself, driving in Top Fuel and funny cars.
Very interesting race coming up here. Both cars are high-geared cars. The Ormsby car, the question is it going to be able to step up and match Hawley's mount, because his car is very powerful, and there are people in the pits who feel that this Larry Minor car can set low ET of the event. They've got a lot of power.
And on this very cool afternoon, nobody here in a big hurry to stage. It's not that big a factor overheating the motor. They're off, and Hawley has problems. It will be Gary Ormsby, wire to wire, headed for the semifinals. And not Sterling, particularly 5:26 elapsed time, but he got the win. No question what happened to Hawley's car. It broke something in the drivetrain right off the mark. Paul?
Lee, you got the round, but you're not going to have lane choice when you come up against Amato. How critical is that going to be?
Well, we've been running pretty consistent mid-20s. We've been making a lot of changes, but the thing just won't seem to respond to the changes we're making, so we'll have to try something different.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, a team's got problems when they're starting to guess out here at the U.S. Nationals. Meanwhile, in the John Force pit, the engine change seems to be proceeding nicely. The heads are going on. That's a good sign that the engine is all well and ready to race Tom Hoover in the second round.
With the changing weather here at the U.S. Nationals, many of the crew chiefs are having trouble deciding how to change their machines. Let's go to the far end, Steve.
With Frank Hawley breaking on the starting line, Gary Ormsby, congratulations. You're heading for the semifinals.
Well, you know the old adage, even a blind squirrel finds a bigger in once in a while.
Now, you saw the scoreboard, I'm sure, after Joe Amato's 5:07. You just ran a 5:26. Now you have to race Joe.
Well, we'll definitely have to step it up. This thing's been running 20s all weekend, so we're going to have to step it up if we want to go any farther.
It's not already stepped up?
Well, we did, but I don't know what happened if it ran another 5:20.
Okay, let's hope you find some more performance. He's going to need it.
So Gary Ormsby moves into the semifinal round. Up on the line, Gene Snow contemplates his fate as he prepares to face Dennis Forssell as round 2 action continues. We'll be right back.
We're back at Indianapolis, Indiana for the 34th running of the U.S. Nationals. If you're fortunate enough to become an octogenarian, you spend your years rocking in the sun at the home, right? Not 82-year-old George Hoover right there. He is the crew chief on son Tom's funny car. And Don, it looked like Tom was watching and George was working.
Sure looked like that to me, Steve.
Top Fuel round number 2 continues. In the near lane will be Gene Snow, a brand new car, and in the far lane will be Dennis Forssell, a businessman from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And he's got his work cut out for him this afternoon, trust me.
Well, especially so since he has that far lane, which has been a problem at the U.S. Nationals. Dennis Forssell from Minneapolis beat Frank Bradley, qualified number 8 to come into round 2. He is crew chief by Larry Frazier, and that team faces Gene Snow, the brand new car. Now, Gene Snow will work on his car, but he credits Chris Eckert, this man, with being the crew chief, though really all of them work on the car about equally.
You know, Don Garlich, Joe Amato talked about bringing a new car here and says, no, you don't experiment at the U.S. Nationals. Gene Snow, that didn't bother him a bit. This car had never seen a drag strip till it arrived here.
The teams are a little smarter now with all the computers, Steve, and they really know a little bit more about what they actually want out of a new car. And you can really see the graphic difference between these two cars. Dennis Forssell in the far lane, Gene Snow in the near lane. You can see it. Even the novice can tell the difference in these cars.
And they're off the mark. Gene Snow near lane. Dennis Forssell has smoked the tires. Gene Snow in his brand new machine. Oh, 5.07. We'll have to go to the 3rd digit with NHRA. Joe Amato is still the quickest by 1/1000th of a second. Paul?
Chris, a 5.07. That's awesome.
Not bad for a new car.
Are you surprised at all?
Not at all. I think it'll go faster. Maybe not here, but it will go faster.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
I'm very happy, Chris Eckert. It's always impressive when they ran that good with a brand new car. We all think it'll go faster.
So the final pair in round number 2 of Top Fuel at the 34th U.S. Nationals pits this man, Darrell Gwynn, who has won more Nationals this year than any other, but who faces a problem at the moment in that he does not have lane choice and has been forced into that far lane, which of course has proven to be quite difficult, not only here today, but throughout the history of the U.S. Nationals. Now he will face the reigning world champion Dick LaHaye, who started his engine rather late.
Yeah, that's because, Paul, he doesn't like to do the dry hop, and he doesn't like all the engine heat that Gwynn likes. Gwynn likes to come back to the starting line and make a dry hop and go out there and test it. LaHaye doesn't like that.
So Kim LaHaye has now started the engine for her father. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
For 3 days, Gene Snow struggled with a brand new race car, an untried machine. That experiment, bringing a new car to Indy, has just paid off with a 5.07.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. I mean, who would have thought a new one would have done it?
Just a tick away, however, from low elapsed time of the meet.
What did Joe run?
5.07, but a little quicker on the 1,000th.
Is that right? Well, we'll have to do it on starting line, maybe.
You know, a lot of people were shaking their head. Why would you bring a new car to the biggest race of the year when you had a winning car?
Well, if you think about it like this, at Atlanta 3 years ago, I came out with a short car and ended up being runner-up to Pastorini on that Monday rain out. Last year at Dallas, a 5.08 with a new car. I feel good about new cars.
You're a tinkerer, aren't you?
I can't stand it to be still.
So Gene Snow has to be happy with the tinkering that's been done on that brand new car. It looks very competitive. Back on the starting line, Darrell Gwynn.
Here's the dry start that I told you about, Paul. See the smoke come off the tires? Now that'll tell his father, Jerry Gwynn, the crew chief, that Darrell is going to have to hold the brake.
Well, Darrell Gwynn, the quickest driver in the history of the sport, just had his 27th birthday. And as Don said, his crew chief is his father, Jerry Gwynn, from Miami. And the two relate very well, more like brothers than father and son. They're just real good friends. Another family affair, Dick LaHaye, Lansing, Michigan, defending Winston champion. And, of course, his crew chief, well-known, is Kim LaHaye. What a worker she is on this car, along with her brother, Jeff.
Steve, just take a look at her there. Look at that look on her face. She's all business. This isn't a token crew chief. This is the real thing.
Selected as CarCraft Magazine's Crew Chief of the Year in the Top Fuel category. Here at a banquet earlier this weekend, quite an honor and well-deserved for that young lady. Don, how hard will he hold the brake to try to keep those tires from smoking, or will he?
He will hold the brake, absolutely, and how hard he'll hold it is whatever the little secret signal is that his father has given him, because he's the one who saw the smoke, not Darrell.
But still, it's something you do by the seat of the pants, really.
And Darrell is the best in the business.
Absolutely, at his young age. All right, Dick LaHaye in the near lane. He's had a couple of crashes here over the years at Indianapolis. In fact, broke the same arm twice, but since then, his fortunes have truly turned. He's behind in the points, though. He needs a big effort here. The engine just idling about 1,000 RPM. You see a little raw fuel, and they're away. Darrell Gwynn with the advantage off the mark. And LaHaye cannot close it. Darrell Gwynn wins it on a hole shot. He reacted quicker. His 5:13 defeats Dick LaHaye's 5:09. LaHaye will be sick about that. Well, Darrell did a fine job of driving. His dad, a great job of engine work.
A 5:13, but perhaps more important, you're out of the right lane. No one's won there yet.
Well, we had to soften up a little bit, but we'll make it through the next round, hopefully.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
Jerry heading down to congratulate that young lion son of his. What a driving job. Watch that brilliant move on the starting line. My goodness, that car lifts the front wheels up, charges out. We put the arithmetic to the times in the lead, and LaHaye would have had to run 5:03 to beat Darrell with that head start he took on him.
Well, 2 weeks ago, at the North Star Nationals in Minnesota, Darrell Gwynn was beaten with a quarter elapsed time by Joe Amato. He was not about to suffer that embarrassment again. Neither driver could possibly have known who won this race. There's the math on the screen, and of course that sets up the semifinals. It will be Darrell Gwynn against Gene Snow. Gene Snow with that great 5:07 has the lane choice. The other half of the semifinals will pit Joe Amato with his 5:07 and lane choice up against Gary Ormsby. Some fine racing to come in Top Fuel. Well, meanwhile, back in the pit area, the funny car competitors are pouring the nitromethane into the tanks, getting their cars ready. This is the pit area of the always game Tim Gross. He may not have a lot of money or a lot of sponsorship, but he can be ruthless anytime he comes to the starting line, and his opponent, Mark Oswald, well knows that. We'll be back to Indianapolis Raceway Park right after these words.
That marvelous facility on the west side of Indianapolis, Indiana, that is Indianapolis Raceway Park. Welcome back to the 34th U.S. Nationals. I'm Paul Page with Steve Evans and Don Garlitz. As in the Top Fuel pits, Tim Richards works on Joe Amato's car as they prepare to face Gary Ormsby in the semifinal round of Top Fuel. Out on the line, the Pro Stocks are ready.
Absolutely, Paul, and the fans will be up for this, the factory hot rods. And this will be a battle of Beretta automobiles. Joe Lapone versus Tony Christian. And I would imagine that under his fire retardant suit, Tony Christian is wearing a Butch Leal t-shirt. Butch Leal, the famous pro stock driver, so known for his quick reaction time, gave Tony one of his t-shirts. And suddenly Tony started leaving like Butch himself and won the North Star Nationals 2 weeks ago. And he didn't credit any sponsors or crew chiefs. He credited the t-shirt. He'll be up against Joe Lapone. Berwyn, Pennsylvania, a good leader in his own right. A battle, as we said, of two Beretta automobiles. And there is Tony Christian, a former stockbroker from Chicago, now moved down to Sarasota, Florida, a two-time winner on the trail this year.
And of course, when you're talking pro stock, you're talking a category in which leaving is the absolute key. The cars are so evenly matched that if you can cut a good light, you may have assured yourself the victory even before you've rolled 20 feet down the course.
I'll bet Butch Leal will be a little careful about giving away those lucky t-shirts from now on.
Indeed, the engine screams they're away. This race is already over. You may have seen the red light in the near lane. Joe Lapone gambled a little bit, felt that Tony Christian had more performance, and he didn't get away with it. He got hot by the tree. There you see the red light, meaning instant disqualification. Tony Christian wins it at 7:45, 184 miles per hour.
And that red light shows you, Steve, just how close these pro stock drivers cut that tree.
Back at the starting line, round number 2 of Pro Stock at the 34th U.S. Nationals as Morris Johnson Jr. powers his machine up, preparing to meet one of the finest levers in the sport, Butch Leal. That action coming up as both drivers prepare their machines. There's Leal bringing his car back in the lane. Let's go to the far end and Steve Evans.
Well, Tony Christian, I think that Joe Lapone is kicking himself all the way back to the pits. He ran a little quicker than you did, but left that red light.
I'm glad, because I shook all the way from the starting line to the finish line. I still got that undefeated shirt on.
Explain what that means, shook.
Shook is when the tires, they go square on these cars, and you just start rolling over the square part of the tire. And I mean, the back end of the car just starts bouncing and everything.
Hard on the body, too.
Oh, it is.
Okay, see you in a
It is. Okay.
Sounds like my old top fueler from a few years ago. We shook the tires, the funny car shook. Now the pro stocks are shaking.
Back at the starting line, Morris Johnson Jr. doing dry chirps, trying to find out just how good this new launching pad is. Morris Johnson Jr. out of Richmond, Virginia in his Oldsmobile as he faces Butch Leal from Black Lick, Ohio, who qualified number 16th and had his trouble getting into this 16-car field.
Now, Morris Johnson Jr., a big man, 260 pounds. Butch Leal, slight of frame, 150 pounds. Wouldn't make any difference, right? Both cars with drivers, 2,350 pounds. It does because Leal has more lead to move around and get the right balance on that car. That's a big disadvantage for Morris Johnson, but Johnson is away first over Leal. And it is Morris Johnson Jr., 743 to Leal 744. Johnson was about 200 quicker off the mark. Maybe Leal needs a Tony Christian t-shirt, Paul.
Well, Butch Leal is the man with a reputation for being a good lever, but Don Garlits in this fight, it was Morris Johnson Jr. that got away first.
Well, you got to remember, Morris Johnson Jr. beat Glidden at the Pomona with a hole shot, and he's one of the up-and-coming best levers in the business, and there it is. He gets Leal off the line and runs a better ET. Leal never had a chance.
Running to the finish line, a typical, very close pro stock race. This is what you see time after time in pro stock. But it was Morris Johnson that got there first by about a foot length.
And already fired, heating up the tires, is the #1 qualifier in pro stock. That is Warren Johnson in the far lane in his Oldsmobile. In the near lane from New Jersey is Frank Iaconio. I'll tell you how serious Warren Johnson is, that car over in the far lane. He took 3 machines to Atlanta Dragway near his home, rung them out for a solid week, and brought the quickest and best of the 3 here, and it paid off for him. #1 so far. No one has been able to take that away from him yet.
So it's Warren Johnson, an engineer from Georgia, the #1 qualifier in his Oldsmobile. He beat Nick Nicolas to come to this round as he faces Frank Iaconio out of Flanders, New Jersey in his Trans Am.
Tremendous RPM out of these pro stock cars as they stage. They bring the motor way up, sidestep the clutch. A brilliant start by both drivers. Iaconio is in this one all the way. Flat by over a car length. It is Warren Johnson. His son Kurt thinks that's pretty special. Johnson wins it at 740 to a losing, but so close, 743. Johnson, tremendous reaction time in the far lane. In fact, very close to a red light, Don Garlits.
Yeah, when you run a .435 on a 410 tree, there's not much safety left. But I'll tell you, with the other guy running a 743 in the other lane, he needed every bit of it.
And as you watch them come to the finish line, for Frank Iaconio, that is the best run that he's had since he switched from Ford over to Chevrolet. But the win and the move to the semifinal round goes to Warren Johnson.
Warren Johnson, this race just has your name all over it. Low qualifier and a big second-round win.
Boy, I sure hope you're a prophet, Steve. No, that was a good, clean run. It went just a little bit to the right on it, but we made a change that we hadn't tried here before, and it really felt like one of the best runs we've had so far, so I would probably expect a low 40 with it.
When you pull to the line, do you try to get right in the middle of the racetrack? Where's the groove?
Let my son Kurt pick that out. Greg takes care of us in the water box, gets us in the right spot there. Kurt picks a spot on the line, and so far he's done an excellent job.
Well, he has. As have you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
So even in pro stock, placing the car in the perfect position on the line is an absolute key. Well, now you look as he reaches down and lays his hand over that 4-speed Linco gearbox at the winningest driver in drag racing, Bob Glidden, as he brings his Ford in the near lane back to the line as he prepares to face Kenny Delco.
Kenny Delco is a good lever in his own right, and he better be, the young man from Center Reach, New York, because he knows he is up against a man who has been in 11 consecutive U.S. National Finals. Is that unbelievable? Bob Glidden, Whiteland, Indiana, and he's won the last 3. Now, there's a record, Don.
He owns Indianapolis Raceway Park, let me tell you.
Of course, his shop is not far from here in Whiteland, Indiana, where he works with his entire family on this car.
There is Glidden. You're going to ride with him. You're going to see how hard this car really launches and how quickly he pulls first gear. And now into high gear. Bob Glidden reaches for the parachute. He doesn't even see Kenny Delco's son, Rusty knows his dad has won it by at least a car length. 7:35 for Glidden. That'll put a little pressure on Warren Johnson to a losing 7:46.
So the pairings for the semifinal round, Morris Johnson will face Bob Glidden in a rematch of the Winter Nationals. Morris Johnson won at that time. The second pair, Warren Johnson will face Tony Christian, and Warren Johnson will have the lane choice. Let's go to the far end.
Well, Bob Glidden is seldom ever satisfied with an elapsed time, but I think a 7:35 should make you smile a bit.
I'm happy with that run, Steve. We've made a nice run, Filane. I've been doing such a horrible job of driving here. I don't know what's wrong. I'm having brain fade on the starting line. I think you know, thinking back, that was a decent ride, so maybe we're ready finally.
Okay, we'll see you in the summer.
Thank you.
So Bob Glidden with another victory. He has 8 U.S. Nationals titles so far to his credit. Will today be number 9. In the meantime, back in John Force's funny car pit, they finally have the engine all buttoned together and are ready for their competition.
Over the course of the U.S. Nationals, 135,000 plus people have jammed the grandstands for NHRA Championship drag racing action. And of course, this is the granddaddy of all national events, dating back to 1955. Well, the side of that red and white car will keep them on their feet. That is Kenny Bernstein, the 3-time Winston Funny Car champion, looking to make it 4 consecutive titles.
When you look at that crowd, and in fact, when you look out in front of Kenny Bernstein's car, you see jackets on everybody. Dale Armstrong, his crew chief, is wearing one. Most of the crowd, the temperature really quite cool here with a headwind down the drag strip, only 70 degrees. It's really brisk at Indianapolis.
But still quite warm inside one of these race cars, right, Don Garland?
Well, the time they get all that fire equipment on, which they have to have, you know, those real thick suits in case something happens, it definitely gets hot. In fact, some of the guys have got air conditioners now on their suits.
That's right. They've got some plumbing to the suits and Freon pumping through it. Kenny Bernstein, his only air conditioning is opening the roof hatch on that Buick Riata replica body. Kenny Bernstein, Dallas, Texas, or Newport Beach, California. Dale Armstrong, the crew chief, maybe the highest paid in all of motor racing. Dale Poldy, one of 7 drivers this year to have won an NHRA national event competition in the funny car category, an all-time record. Poldy won the Winter Nationals, the first race of the year, and David Settles, another graduate engineer out of Texas, is the crew chief on that automobile. Poldy won the Winter Nationals in a local California car, the Over-the-Hill Gang machine, and then picked up this Billy Meyer-owned ride a few races later. So he's way back at the point because he hasn't made all of the events, but he is a consummate driver.
So Poldy in the far lane. World champion Kenny Bernstein, the defending champion at the U.S. Nationals, here on the near side.
And they are off. Bernstein with an instant lead. Poldy challenges him. Oh, it is Bernstein by a whisker. But what a job Poldy did. He only came up 200 short. Ball page?
You're looking down there checking on something. Do you see something special?
Well, yeah, we've been too light on it. And, you know, it's hard to make a big step forward for fear of smoking the tires, but the car still appears to be too soft in the first 330 feet, so we stepped on a little bit, it responded, so I guess we'll give it more.
All right, good luck.
Bill Armstrong, of course, referring to the clutch when he says give it more. Watch the cars as they leave the line. You'll see this huge cloud of black coming out of the back of Bernstein's car. That means the clutch is not set tight enough, but if they give it too much, it'll be blue smoke coming out of the back of the car, so it's a very tricky situation. But Bernstein pulls this one out of the bag. Poldy gave it a real good effort, though.
Even 3-time Winston champions like Kenny Bernstein are still thrilled when they're in a great drag race, and that was a good one.
Well, I felt him all the way. I never saw him, but I just knew he had to be there, just the feeling you have. It was a good one.
Well, the numbers make it almost a dead heat, a 38 for you to his 40. He had a little edge off the mark.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we had a little power to get by, and we needed it. The car's a little soft still. It needs a little more, but they'll work on the clutch some more.
Will the racetrack take any more?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I still think that we're a little soft. We need to give her a little more.
See you in the semi.
Okay.
So while Kenny Bernstein drives the car, Dale Armstrong and the crew constantly readjust that machine to make sure that it is ready to race in the next round. Our next pair in round number 2 of Funny Car. The red and white machine of Mark Oswald will face Tim Gross.
Tim Gross has won 2 NHRA national events, Paul, even though there has never been a corporate sponsor on the side of that car. He does it through just hard work and tenacity from Saugus, California. And again, there's a woman behind the scenes, his crew chief and best friend, Barbara Hogan.
And that team will face the team of Mark Oswald, the 1984 Winston champion from Cincinnati, Ohio. And the crew, the Candies and Hughes crew, Leonard Hughes is noted down as the crew chief. He doesn't even go down to the far end, by the way. He heads straight back to the pits after the run is done. Paul Candies helps put Mark Oswald into just the very track that he wants for the launch.
You know, if Leonard Hughes sees some smoke come out of that car and the judges it dawn to be, let's say, piston smoke, he's back at the trailer already getting things ready.
Well, he says that's where the action is. It can't help him very much down at the other end. He says the crew can get the car back to the pits.
Now, you just saw Barbara Hogan very carefully lining up Tim Gross. If you get out of that track a little bit, you might as well have not done the burnout.
And it's very hard to see that burnout mark because those funny cars are real tight on that vision. So the crew chief is really important at this point.
And there you get a good shot of the fuel injector on the top of the engine. The butterflies in there that control the air in, connected to the throttle. They're away. Tim Gross with a good lead. Tim Gross with traction problems. It is Mark Oswald, an impressive effort. I say impressive because that is his 4th consecutive 537. Paul?
Leonard, super run, and you're going to have lane choice coming up now. Are you pleased with it?
Well, yeah, but I don't think lanes are a big deal right now. Those lanes seem pretty even, so unless something happens, that's a big advantage.
The sun keeps coming out, going in, the temperature changes. How many changes do you have to make now between next round because of weather?
We'll wait and see. If it gets a little warmer, we'll step on it some more and see what happens.
All right, good luck.
Yeah.
The hotter it is, the more nitro you have to put in the fuel tank.
In the staging lanes, John Force's funny car finally makes an appearance. The engine all bolted back together and ready to run. Prepared to meet Tom Hoover a little later in 2nd round. Now let's go to the far end.
You know, as unpredictable as a nitro funny car is, I don't ever recall, Mark Oswald, any funny car running the same number 4 times. Another 537.
Yeah, we're real happy. You know, we've just been putting it back the same, and it's been repeating. Now it'll come time to step it up a little bit. I was pretty conservative on the controls in the car that time. I think we might be able to step it up a little bit next round.
What could you have done inside to go quicker?
Oh, I could have put the clutch in a little quicker, but we were pretty sure that he couldn't run with us, and we wanted to be safe that time.
You're putting a fresh clutch in every round. Is that part of this consistency?
Yeah, that's part of the way we run our car. You know, it's worked good for us, and we just stick by that.
I'll say it's working good. See you in the semi.
Thank you.
Incredibly consistent team, Candies and Hughes, with their driver, Mark Oswald. The clutch control system on Gary Ormsby's car. They're looking for 2/10 that they need if they're going to beat Joe Amato in the semifinal round. We'll be back.
Unpredictable race cars and all of motorsports are on the pad as round 2 of funny car competition continues here at the U.S. Nationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page and Don Garlitz. We're at Indianapolis Raceway Park. In the far lane will be Chuck Etchels in a brand new car. In the near lane will be Andy H. McCullough, the winner of the Southern Nationals this year.
You know, Steve, while a lot of attention has been focused upon Mark Oswald's consistency in this race, Ed the Ace McCullough has just been steadily marching toward a very fine performance.
That's right, just kind of sneaking up on it. A very quiet team. You never know quite what they're up to. Ed McCullough has won the U.S. Nationals 3 times. He's the last of the drivers from the great touring circus days. The crew chief, a Canadian, now a Californian, Ernie Federley. None better. And their opponent here is Chuck Etchels, and they know not to underestimate this businessman from Woodstock, Connecticut. His young crew chief, Mike Smith, was able to muster enough horsepower to get this car in the number 8 qualified position. That's in the top half of the field. Now, in the first round, Chuck Etchels defeated this man, Brad Tuttle of Hesperia, California. But that's not the real story, Paul Page.
Yes, during the qualifying run, Brad Tuttle had more than plenty of problems. Now watch Tuttle on the right side as the engine lets go and takes the whole top of the car and literally vaporizes it. Total disintegration of the top of the car. Now Brad Tuttle, surprisingly, was not injured in this.
And can you imagine his surprise when that happened? It must have been unbelievable.
Obviously, he needed a new body for the car, and that started an interesting odyssey.
For 2 days after that horrific explosion, Brad Tuttle sat in the grandstands watching funny car after funny car go down the racetrack trying to bump him out of the quick 16. But Brad's time held in the bump spot, number 16, and his spare body has arrived from California. But the real hero in this story, the only reason Brad Tuttle is in competition today is because of a guy named Don, and we don't even know his last name. Tell us the story.
Well, what he works for my brother, and I contacted my brother and explained his situation right after it happened. And the guy that works for me got him on a rental truck and got him out here on his way. In 42 hours, here he is. Eyes swelled closed, feet swelled up. And, boy, I want to do it.
And he went to the wrong racetrack.
Yeah, he went to the 500 first and called us and said, "Where you at?"
Well, a guy named Don right now is in a Holiday Inn, and he's probably going to stay there the rest of the day. What do you think?
I think so. I don't think we could wake him up tomorrow. He'll still be sleeping.
Now, that was earlier today, and since that time, in first round, after all that work, Brad Tuttle was beaten by this man, Chuck Etchels, who now is ready to face Ed McCullough.
What do you think, Don Garrett? Let's pick one.
Well, Ace has been running the best, obviously, but in drag racing, anything can happen. It usually does.
Etchels is off the mark first. but McCullough immediately covers him up. McCullough in a runaway. Oh boy, Don, you were right. They picked up the pace again with this car. 5:36, 272 miles per hour. McCullough heads for the semifinals. Paul Page is at the starting line.
Ernie, you won the round, but you were taking a look down the strip at the end there.
Well, we're just kind of looking at the tire pattern, see what we need to do to correct for the next round.
What are you thinking for the next round?
Well, I tell you, I think we've got a tough one on our hands. Force is going to be a tough player. We know that.
Force, Hoover, which one do you want to see?
I'd prefer to see Hoover. I think we stand a better chance racing Hoover, but either one of them's tough. Good luck. Thank you very much.
So as Bernie Federley heads down to the far end to talk to his driver, that matchup that he just described is about to take place. As Tom Hoover in the far lane is ready to face John Force in the near lane. Now remember, Austin Coyle and the crew has changed engine since first round in John Force's car. Now Don Garlett's fresh engine, doesn't that make the driver a little nervous?
It certainly does, because every one of these engines has its own personality, and even though it's got the same parts in it, each one runs just a tiny little bit different.
Force and Hoover ready to run. Let's go to the far end.
Well, Kenny Bernstein was strong. Mark Oswald was stronger, but Ace, you just hit it out of the park. Low elapsed time of the day at a 5:36.
Well, it's a tough old ball game out there. I mean, all of these guys are really running good. The racetrack's in superb condition. The weatherman is, you couldn't ask for anything any better. It just makes for outstanding drag racing, and that's what we're getting here.
Well, the weather changing rapidly. Sometimes sunshine, more often than not clouds overhead, and a headwind of about 12 miles an hour blowing right straight down the drag strip.
Some of the most unusual weather I have ever experienced at Indianapolis.
Well, John Force comes in here on a roll. He won the North Star Nationals just a few weeks ago, the preceding event of the U.S. Nationals, under the control of this man, Austin Coyle. They qualified number 2 at a sensational 5:34. Tom Hoover has been racing since the days of front-motored top fuel dragsters, Maple Grove, Minnesota. We talked before about this amazing gentleman, 82-year-old George Hoover. The team from Minneapolis having a good day. In fact, so good that earlier they defeated Don the Snake Perdome. Let's look back at that round 1 race. The Snake was in the near lane, and you're about to see what happens if you're just a little bit off in the clutch compartment. The car smoked the tires right off the starting line, and the Snake's day was done. Don, it's always painful to go out in round number 1, but when you know that there's 1.5 times the normal points available to those that won, that really hurts.
Yeah, that's right. And, but it isn't over till it's over as far as the World Championship goes. But, yeah, it was important to us at Indy here. But, we've been struggling through this race, and we got into a clutch problem with the car. And just couldn't seem to sort it out here. And we just worked on it right now trying to fix it.
Your hopes are still alive, though?
Oh, yeah. It's never over till it's over, as they say. And we'll go right to Pomona, and we'll fight all the way trying to get that championship.
Intense doesn't begin to describe that man. Hoover in the far lane now, and John Force. What do you think, Don?
Well, I think they did a good job. The Austin Coyle is just remarkable at putting those engines back together. Beautiful starting line advantage there to Force, and as you see, 5.44 ET. The motor runs just as good as the one they took out of the car.
That's right. They'll have to step on it a bit. Paul's at the start.
Nice clean run for you. You're running, though, into a fairly brisk headwind. It doesn't seem to be having an effect, but do you have to compensate for it?
Oh, a little bit. Like we took a little bit of wing off because of that, but we just changed motors the run before, and we got to tune her up a little, it looks like.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Austin Coyle makes it unanimous. He also knows they're going to need more performance to defeat Ed the Ace McCullough in the semifinals. McCullough has low ET of the day and obviously has the lane choice. The other half of the semis, well, Mark Oswald has the lane choice there. Not that it's a big factor over defending Winston champion Kenny Bernstein. Right now, let's go to Don Garland.
As we head into the semifinal of Top Fuel, it's not so much who's going to win this round that excites me, but the phenomenal performance of this car. Gene Snow brought a brand new car to Indianapolis, an unheard of thing, and has now reached 5.07 seconds elapsed time. Just 2/100ths off the absolute ET record. I talked with Gene Snow earlier in the pits before this round. They had virtually no problems with the car, and he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, Don, we're going to run 5:02 before this race is over. I'll tell you, that excites me.
Well, can Snow do it? This man, Darrell Gwynn, is certainly asking himself that question. Top Fuel is next.
U.S. Nationals, we see the Oldsmobile Pro Stock car, all a part of Warren Johnson. There's the transmission. That is a 4-speed. It's out of the car so that they can pay attention to what's inside that bell housing, the clutch, which is becoming increasingly important in Pro Stock cars, as it has been already in Top Fuel. Here we see the man who pioneered the high gear only, the modern era high gear only. And Don, this is the first car built expressly for high gear.
And that was only made possible through the multi-stage clutch. It's one thing to have high gear, but it's another thing to have a 5- or 6-stage clutch.
Well, here on the starting line, when Gene Snow fired up, you got an amazing vapor of nitro coming across the line. I know Darrell Gwynn and his dad and crew chief, Jerry Gwynn, got a good whiff of it. The point is that Gene Snow is really ready to run.
And is rumored to have 100% nitro in the tank. Gene Snow and Darrell Gwynn. Snow forges ahead. Gene Snow runs the quickest elapsed time in NHRA drag racing history. 5 flat.
And did you see that car make that move in the middle of the course?
Incredible. Can the 4s be far away?
Chris, you got to be smiling at that one. You nailed her right on.
Well, 5-0 is pretty impressive. We got a lot of work to do. I'd say we hurt it pretty bad, but what can you say? A 5-0, a brand new car, first race? That's all there is to say.
What would you guess happened to it?
Probably burn a piston.
You can get that done by the final round, can't you?
You bet. We'll just change motors if we have to.
You can bet Gene Snow's not going to take that 5 flat motor out of the car. He'll fix it no matter what's wrong with it. As we watch the start, we see the incredible car of Gene Snow's make that fantastic move. Look at that thing go. And right about there, it's like Darrell put on the brakes.
Incredible, a 5 flat run off of Gene Snow. And with the finals yet to come, we could see a run in the 4s. Let's go to Steve.
Well, before Gene Snow crawled into this new race car, he told our friend Don Garlitz he thought he'd run a 5:02. Well, Gene, you didn't. You ran 5 seconds flat.
5 seconds flat. Amazing. God, all I need was that much more, and that'd have been it. That's wonderful. I don't know what to say. A brand new car. Gene Gaddy built the best. My crew's wonderful. Amelie's great. This is great.
I have nothing to add to that. We'll see you in the semi.
Oh, thanks a lot. Okay. Wow.
Without question, the man to beat, Gene Snow. Now, who will he face? Will it be Gary Ormsby or the defending champion here at the U.S. Nationals, Joe Amato? There's Amato sitting in his car as his crew makes their final preparations, putting him in tracks and getting him ready to run.
Joe Amato has a very similar engine and clutch combination to Gene Snow. Right now, looking at that scoreboard at 5 flat, Don Garlitz, I bet he's wishing he also would have brought a new car as he once thought of doing.
Well, sure, because the car he's got is definitely last year's model or maybe even the year before. But you can tell just by looking at it, it's the old style of Top Fuel dragster, not like the little long needle nose thing that Gene Snow or Darrell Gwynn has.
All right, let's see if Ormsby has picked up the pace. Ormsby off the mark first, and apparently they tried to make E.T. with clutch. That doesn't work. Joe Amato goes into the final round for the 2nd year in a row at 5:11. We all remember when that was a great elapsed time about 10 minutes ago. Paul?
Tim, of 5:11, a lot slower than Gene Snow ran there. Oh. Conditions are changing pretty rapidly here, though.
Yeah, conditions are changing real rapidly. We had to put a couple of clutch discs in that round, and usually isn't very good the first time you run it, but in the final, I'm sure we're going to pull out a couple more stops here.
We're watching the weather change. Any guesses on what you have to do for that final round?
Well, we're going to have to put more fuel in it, whether we like it or not. I mean, you have to put more volume, and this air is getting too cold.
All right, get to work. Thanks. Thank you.
When he says pull out the stops, that's the understatement of the event. What do you do when you look up at the board and you see 5 seconds flat?
So the stage is set for the final round. Gene Snow will face Joe Amato, and with that 5 flat, Snow has the lane choice. Steve?
Well, normally Joe Amato and I would be down here celebrating a 5:11, but Joe, I'm sure you heard the roar of the crowd and saw the scoreboard for Gene Snow at 5 flat.
Yeah, that was an awesome run, you know. There might be a 4 in the final here. He's running really good. We're just excited to be in the final, Steve. You know, there's this U.S. National 2nd year in a row, and he put Darrell out, and he was right on our tail for the points. So this helped us on the big picture, the World Championship. Now we've got to concentrate on winning the U.S. Nationals.
We've got a bit of a headwind. How much would that have affected, let's say, Gene Snow's run?
Well, it's definitely worth something, you know, but the only thing, it might plant the car a little better and make the ET better.
Make the wing work better.
Make the wing work better. It'll hurt the speed and pick up the ET. So, you know, Snow's running tough. You know, this high-geared thing is really, seems like the way to go right now.
I'm sure you'll dig a little deeper for Mr. Snow.
Well, Tim Richards will come up with a number.
You can bet on it.
So can Joe Amato repeat, or can Gene Snow run in the 4s? We'll find out in a few moments. But in the meantime, preparations going on in Kenny Bernstein's pit as they put the finishing touches on that machine. In the meantime, over in the Candies and Hughes stable, they are preparing Mark Oswald's machine, ready to run against Kenny Bernstein. We'll be back with the semifinal round of Pro Stock right after this.
Nationals. We're in Ed McCullough's funny car pit. That is the intake manifold, part of the fuel injection system. You see all those lines and a little burst plate being tested right there. That's a safety device in case the supercharger should explode. So the Aces men are doing their job, and they've got a bit of time as here comes the semifinals in Pro Stock. Tony Christian, the red and white Beretta, versus low ET in Pro Stock at this event, Warren Johnson in his Oldsmobile. You know, Paul, I think the fans really identify with these cars because they've got carburetors on them. Even though they're the size of trash cans, they're still carburetors, and there's gasoline in the tank.
Indeed, the car comes very close to what you or I might drive on the street if we had $30,000 or $40,000 to modify the thing. But they look pretty much like what you and I drive on the street. And the nice thing about it, because there are so many rules affecting the cars, that forces good, even competition.
Now, as they bring the RPMs up, you hear the engine stutter as they come up on the electronic rev limiter so they don't overwind the engine. Warren Johnson is the last to stage, and Warren Johnson cuts an amazing light. It is going to be Warren Johnson by a little less than a car length at 737 to a 739. Don Garlitz, he's lucky to get away there without a red light.
Warren Johnson has really been pushing that tree all day long today, and he cuts a light this time. It is unbelievable. I haven't seen a quicker light in drag racing, much less, you know, without getting a red light on top of it. But he gets away with it, and it's the demise of Christian, because there you can see it goes right away from him. And Christian runs good, but not good enough.
Of course, because of the evenly matched cars, if you don't move early, then you're not going to move at all. Let's go to Steve at the far end.
The number one qualifier, Warren Johnson, you continue to kind of slash your way through this field. It's going well for you.
Well, it was a pretty decent run. Nice, clean, straight run all the way through. So we're looking real good for the final.
A 737, about what you hoped for?
That was actually better than what I hoped for. That's all right.
Okay, Warren Johnson to the semis.
Warren Johnson is having a good day, doing better, in fact, than he expected. Now, who will he face in the final round of Pro Stock? Will it be Morris Johnson Jr., the man in this car, or the all-time champion Bob Glidden in his Thunderbird?
If there's one driver that strikes fear in the heart of Bob Glidden, it's the man in that black car from Virginia, Morris Johnson Jr. Bob will tell you that.
And you can certainly see that Bob is anticipating getting ready to go. He's checking everything as he's waiting to stage, trying to get the other guy in ahead. That's what they're always trying to do. They like to stage last in Pro Stock.
Well, neither driver seems to want to stage first here. Look at the pre-stage lights. We're on Morris Johnson. He's not moving.
Bob Glidden, he's not moving.
And here is Glidden still in the car. You see his hand on the blow gear lever. Now watch his son, Rusty. And when this car leaves the starting line, we'll go back to that shot, and you'll get a feeling for how hard they move. Watch the young man out the rear window. Bob Glidden is away. Look at them.
Isn't that incredible?
Now those are Pro Stock cars.
Imagine what that looked like in a top fuel race.
And it is Glidden. What a good race. About half a car length has put Bob Glidden into his 12th consecutive U.S. Nationals final round. 737 to a 746. But Johnson had him early.
Morris Johnson Jr. cuts the second best light of the meet. And I'll tell you, he was ready for Bob, but Bob just had a little bit too much power for him. That 737 coupled with 187 miles an hour is a hard number to meet. And even though Morris Johnson ran nearly a tenth of a second slower than Glidden, because of the starting line advantage, he made a real race out of it.
So the stage is now set for the Pro Stock final round, and the crowd is excited about it. Bob Glidden will face Warren Johnson. They've extended the ET out to the 1,000, and Bob Glidden will have lane choice.
Another tremendous Pro Stock drag race. Morris might have got off the mark a little bit first, but your 737 handled it.
37 is, you know, I think that's what Warren ran. Yeah, it was a very good race, Steve. I think Morris did leave a couple hundredths on me, but the Thunderbird thundered on this end.
You got an Oldsmobile that thundered just before you. You go in deadlocked early into the final.
I don't even know who's got lane choice. I saw his 37. If we win a 37, it's a heads-up deal.
Lane choice a big deal?
Hasn't been. Right now, both lanes are really good.
What a great final.
Thank you.
Well, Steve, it doesn't seem to matter to Bob Glidden, but he does have lane choice for the final round in Pro Stock against Warren Johnson. Let's go to Don Garlitz.
This car, driven by Mark Oswald, is probably one of the most consistent running cars in this class in the world. It ran 2 runs in a row, 5:37 with an 8, 2 times to the thousandths of a second. I have never seen such consistency in my life. Prior to that, it had another 5:37. If he can continue on that pace and leave correctly, this is going to be a very difficult car to beat, even though Ed McCullough on the other side of the ladder has just a tiny little bit better ET.
In the staging lanes, McCullough appears to be relaxed, but you know, inside, he's thinking about John Force. That's coming up.
At the U.S. Nationals, the 34th edition, where Gene Snow has run a 5 flat. Let's go back to his pit area now, and Steve.
For the past few months, Gene Snow and his crew have been keeping a list on the trailer wall of new features for next year's race car. For one thing, they no longer run a transmission, so why not move the engine back about 6 inches closer to the rear tires for better traction? And maybe tilt it down about, a half a degree or so. But they're afraid if they did that in a car of the same length, 275 inches, it would wheel stand. So they figured next year's car will go right to the limit of the rules, 300 inches in wheelbase. And their car was a little bit heavy. They said next year we'll go to magnesium body panels and magnesium bolts and get right down to that 1,900 pounds with Gene on board. And finally they said, wait a minute, why wait till next year? They called Texas chassis builder Gene Gaddy. They said, Gene, can you have a car ready for Indy? He said, you sure you want a new car at Indy? They said, yeah. He said, I'll have one. Well, it came in here unpainted. They take it to a paint shop every night. The paint scheme keeps changing day by day as it's completed. A lot of people laughed and they said, only the snowman would bring a brand new car to the biggest drag race of them all. They're not laughing anymore. The quickest car in the history of NHRA drag racing.
And in final round, it may get even quicker. In the meantime, on the line, the semifinal round of Funny Car. Kenny Bernstein backing up, prepared to meet Mark Oswald. Now, Dale Armstrong and the crew, there's Dale in the dark jacket, have been working with the rear wing on this car. This is vastly different than, say, the car appeared at Columbus at mid-season. They now are running a wicker bill, a little perpendicular object on the back of the wing to try and get more downforce and yet stay within the new rules.
This downforce thing has become a real problem with these cars. They generate so much horsepower on the top end, they've got to have pressure, and they don't have the big wings like the fuel dragsters have sticking up to the back.
3,000 pounds of pressure overall at the finish line. It's a great start by both drivers. Bernstein a slight inch half track. Bernstein extends it to 5.35 seconds. That's the best elapsed time of the day of eliminations. 269 miles per hour for both drivers.
5:35.
Yeah, well, we thought it was a little soft, and we stepped on it. These guys always make us step on it, but it worked.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Armstrong heads down to join Kenny Bernstein. In the meantime, on the line, the next pair coming up, the other half, the semifinal round, to determine who will face Kenny Bernstein. Will it be John Force or Ed McCullough? Force in the far lane as they button down the top on that Oldsmobile. Ed McCullough will be on the near side.
Funny story about this Force. Austin Coyle said the car had a little bit too much wing because Force was complaining about it moving around on the front down course. Well, Force didn't want him to take it off because it had one of his major sponsors' names written on it.
John Force always thinking about the future as he starts the burnout sequence with a lot of power. And Bernie Federley checks out McCullough's car as he pours the power to the machine. Now, let's go to Steve Evans.
5:35.
That's good. That's back to where it has been the first couple of days. We kind of lost it, but we really stepped on it. It's amazing what that track will take right now.
The cool air, who would have thought?
Well, you saw snow's 5:00, so the track can take it. Boy, I just feel great about it all.
Okay, congratulations, Kenny Bernstein. He could make it 2 in a row.
They do take incredibly great care at Indianapolis Raceway Park. New launching pad here, part of the facility, and it is obviously giving the drivers some real opportunities to lay down the power and to turn some times. Kenny Bernstein, his crew very happy. Will they face this man? Will it be Ed McCullough or will it be John Force?
Well, it could be either one of them. Both of these cars are very evenly matched. It seems to me that McCullough has been a little bit more consistent, but Force, you know, they put a new engine in. This could be the combination that's going to do it.
Also, Ed McCullough had lane choice. He's the one that put John Force over in that other lane. And there's the thing. Austin Coyle, he's backing away, giving whatever secret hand signals they've worked out between he and Force based on the dry burnout. And we're just about to determine who will race Kenny Bernstein in the final round of the 34th U.S. Nationals. Both are Oldsmobile bodied, both away with good starts, lots of clutch dust. It's a pick-em race. And the Windecker says Ed McCullough, low elapsed time of the entire event at 5:32, 273 miles per hour.
Ernie, a 5:32, that's going to give you lane choice against Bernstein.
Well, that's great. We were impressed with that one. We knew we'd have to come up a pretty good run to beat Force, and we just weren't sure how much we could ask the track for, but there it was. Came up good. We're
Temperature
pleased.
keeps coming down, the horsepower goes up, the times come down.
Exactly, and the track's remaining firm.
What's that going to say about the final round?
Could be real stout.
All right.
I can hardly wait. Thanks, guys.
Well, that last round was pretty stiff because Force got such a starting line advantage and he turned his 5.44 ET into a 5.37. So I'll tell you what, Ed McCullough needed a 5:32, and that's what made such a good race out of it. Look, right there, they're still even. But as they move on down track, you can see the superior power of the Larry Minor team start to take action, and he puts him right out of the race.
So we're ready for the finals now in all categories as Ed McCullough has lane choice over the defending U.S. Nationals champion Kenny Bernstein. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
When was the last time you were in a U.S. Nationals finals?
1980.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
McCullough and Bernstein in the final round of Funny Car, and Linda McCullough is real excited with that prospect. We'll be back right after this.
This U.S. Nationals started with over 1,000 competitors 5 days ago. Well, as the pros get ready for their final rounds, let's take a moment to salute the Sportsman Eliminator champions. Some of them had to go through as many as 7 rounds of racing. But in the alcohol funny car field, 16 qualified the final round. Saw Pat Austin from Washington State in the far lane, and from New Jersey, Frank Manzo in the near lane. It was Pat Austin all the way down the racetrack. He has all the earmarks of being a world champion in the top alcohol funny car rank. Top alcohol dragster Gary Southern has been racing 30 years, his first ever win. In competition, Steve Ambrose. In the Superstock category, Mike Town. Ken Sawyer won the always competitive stock eliminator crown. In super gas, racing doesn't get any closer than that. Hugh Norton was the champion. Pro stock motorcycle, well, it went to the world champion, David Schultz. We salute them all, and now it's time for the finals. Etta Glidden videotaping the run of her husband, Bob. This is his 12th final. It is Arlene Johnson doing the very same thing for Warren Johnson. And these aren't just home movies. Don Garland, they study those tapes over and over.
Yes, they do, because they like to know what their competitor does. Sometimes they're taking pictures of the other car, because it's always nice to have that information on record.
You know, this has all the earmarks of a real thriller, Paul Page. Identical elapsed times in the semis for both Johnson and Glidden.
They both came out of the semis with 737s, 187s, but my money would ride with Bob Glidden. He has all the experience you could ever ask for.
Well, Warren Johnson has had the better reaction times all day, as again we look at Bob Glidden behind that steering wheel, getting settled into that seat, getting comfortable, and trying to get his concentration down.
Because Johnson could win this race right on the starting line if Glidden doesn't leave with him.
Well, Glidden admitted to us all earlier that his driving has been his biggest concern all weekend long. But if he's not pumped up for this, well, he never will be. This could be his 4th consecutive U.S. Nationals victory. They are right now staged and ready. They're away. Bob Glidden will be your champion. A red light for Warren Johnson. I don't believe Etta even knew that yet. She was busy photographing this man, Bob Glidden. He may not have even seen that red light. The Glidden family, well, they're pretty happy, Paul.
Well, the one person who did see it was son Rusty, who as soon as the red light came on, began jumping up and down and celebrating. Look at him. He's crying now. He's so happy as Bob Glidden has scored yet another U.S. Nationals Pro Stock win.
Well, Warren Johnson finally got quicker than electricity, as the big red light on the Christmas tree shows. You just can't leave that early. And, you know, he's been doing good all day long, but it really gets hard to judge when he gets down that close.
Bob Glidden comes out of the car giving himself a round of applause, and we join in it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Boy, what a win, Steve.
Did you see his red light?
No, I didn't know he red lighted, but I thought I left on a pretty good light, and he was out of car lane, so, you know.
Good race. And a nice capper, 734.
34? I thought we made a pretty nice run, but got out of shape a little, but the air's so good. What a race.
This is always a special win for you. You've got so many family and friends and neighbors here.
Every win's a special win, but this is Indianapolis. This is a Super Bowl of racing. This is a big race for us. You know, the bonus points go a long way in clinching, or maybe not clinching, but really puts us in the lead in the Winston points chase.
You feel comfortable there now?
Pretty good right now. I feel really good, as a matter of fact.
Family Glidden.
Thank you.
Wins Indy again.
A 9th U.S. Nationals title. The funny car final is coming up next. Here's Don Garlitz.
Thank you.
The funny car final is shaping up to be one heck of a car race. They're very evenly matched. Bernstein, 535. Ed McCullough, 532. It's going to be a race of the crew chiefs. Which one of these crew chiefs are able to extract that tiny little bit of extra performance? Now, I talked to both of these guys, and I think that Dale Armstrong is going to make the most radical move to try to do it. Now, he'll either strike the tires or win the race.
Dale Armstrong, like the rest of us, wait for the final rounds. Bernstein versus McCullough. Amato versus Snow.
As it should be, the two quickest funny cars of the entire U.S. Nationals will meet in the final round. Kenny Bernstein in the far lane, where Ed McCullough has put him. McCullough had lane choice. He will be in the near lane. For Bernstein, it's a chance to repeat. For McCullough, it's a chance for history. He could become the first driver to ever win 4 times in the funny car category. That man in the gold Oldsmobile. There is not a fan in this entire Indianapolis Raceway Park who is not on his or her feet. This could be a classic funny car confrontation between two great champions. Don Garlitz predicted this to be really a competition between crew chiefs. Let's right now go back to Big Daddy in the staging lane and see what he thinks about the top duel final to come.
Race fans, you are privileged to watch drag racing history in the making. This car has just run 5 seconds flat in the semifinals. I talked to Gene Snow. He says, looked me straight in the eye and said, Big, we're going to run 498 on this next run. 498 would be the national record, the first official run under 5 seconds. You know, I believe it's going to happen. Joe Amato ran a fine 511, but 511 doesn't hold a candle to 498. You are really witnessing drag racing at its finest.
But on the line, it's funny car, the final round. Dale Armstrong stands at the front of the machine as they begin now to tape down the emergency hatch on Kenny Bernstein's car. Armstrong, a final set of hand signals as Bernstein looks to the line to see if he can repeat as the U.S. Nationals champion.
And we just saw the pressure in Dale Armstrong's face as everyone eyes the Christmas tree starting system. They are staged and ready, the finals of the U.S. Nationals, and it is a beauty. It is Ed McCullough by inches. McCullough, 535. To Kenny Bernstein's quicker, 534. Yes, it was a race of crew chiefs, but also of race car drivers. Paul Page is on the starting line where it's bedlam.
Absolutely incredible.
Wow, that was a little close for comfort.
The Canadian horsepower, buddy.
Hey, all right. Yeah, I tell you, it burned the exhaust valve out down there. We had made a little quickie repair and it let loose just down the lights, and I don't know, it cost us just a taste of ET, but it was right there. Great race. Ed did a hell of a job.
U.S. Nationals, you can't beat it.
Oh, we love it.
Stevie's on his way to you. Bernie Federley.
Always a calculated risk, you know, when you do a patch-up job on one of those valves, because they can give up any time. They did give up just a little bit of ET, but old Ed McCullough made it up on the line, let me tell you. Bernstein been getting off the line first all day long, but not that time, not for the U.S. Nationals final. As we look at it from a little different angle, let's see if we can't see where the valve comes out. It should be right about there. There it is. It wasn't enough to cost him the race.
With brilliant driving, Ed the Ace McCullough wins the U.S. Nationals. Your 35 beat his 34. Terrific.
All right. It's about time I left on time.
Did you see him all the way down, or not at all?
Actually, I didn't see him. I thought we've got it in the bag, and I looked out there, and there's that red fender, and this baby just, I mean, it took off about half track, and away it went. So, you know, it was a good race. Today was our day.
This is the drag race to win. This is the drag race everybody remembers who won.
This is the 4th time I've won this. I don't think anybody else has ever won it 4 times in the funny car category. It was the first one I ever won. I'm telling you, I'm as excited this time as I was the first time. And for Miller, for Oldsmobile, for Bernie, Larry Miner, our whole crew, I mean, I love it. It's great.
You earned this one behind the steering wheel. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Steve.
He's absolutely correct. The only man ever to win the U.S. Nationals 4 times in funny cars. 1 pair left to run. Top Fuel, Joe Amato on the far side, backs up to face Gene Snow. And at the same time, will we see the first 4-second run in NHRA history?
Well, Don Garlitz, earlier you said you feel that that can happen. Looking at these engines, listening to them, do you see any problems at all?
They look beautiful. In fact, that engine is as clean as I've ever seen it. See the crews all looking underneath it to see if anything's leaking out. Remember, they just put this engine together complete from scratch.
Well, that goes for both of the teams for that matter. They were all completely apart. A lot of vapor out of the pipes of Amato. Any problem?
No, that's for the power.
All right, Joe Amato has smoked the tire, but Gene Snow has got a problem. Amato gets back on the throttle. The crew looking on. Yes, indeed. It finally sinks in. Joe Amato has won the U.S. Nationals back-to-back. The crew had given up when they saw him smoke the tire. So had I. A truly bizarre turn of events in the Top Fuel final.
Tim, I don't think we've ever seen a final like that.
Well, every once in a while you get a final like that, particularly at a race this large. I mean, we're both trying to go real fast, and when Gene went to 5 flat the round before, you knew that he had everything in it, and anything can happen in that kind of situation. I just was glad that Joe was able to recognize that Gene lost it a little bit after he did and get back on it.
Congratulations, U.S. Nationals victory.
Thank you.
So that's one of the things that can happen when you got one car that's trying to get down to 5 flat and another one trying to get into the 4s. As we watch the replay, we notice that Snow's car moves fantastic for the first 100 feet. Then something goes away. You can see the fumes come out of it. Amato, meanwhile, had smoked the tire, stepped back on it, smoked it again, but Gene Snow was dead in the water.
To win this race just one time is something. To win it back-to-back, as Joe Amato has done, well, that's really special. Joe, congratulations.
I'm not proud how I won, Steve, but I guess whoever goes across the finish line wins.
Well, that was tenacity.
I mean, the car left, it did a wheel stand, and it smoked the tires, I think, and then it came down, and then I pedaled it once, and then I saw Snow had trouble. So then I got on it again, and it started fishtailing, and it was like going all around. Then he didn't come, so I pedaled it a couple of times. It was like I was on ice, you know, but...
That's better than a video instant replay. Was there a moment there when you thought, this is over, I've lost?
Yeah, the minute the front end bounced down and the back wheels jumped up and it smoked the tires. The Snow was going, I figured that was over, but then it just recovered. You know, it's wild.
And oh, the Winston points that go along with this.
And we've got about, that definitely helps. The Keystone key parts, that one's for you guys.
Right. Joe Amato, U.S. Nationals champion twice in a row.
Amato wins as Gene Snow's throttle cable comes loose. And as we look at the points fight in funny car, Kenny Bernstein comes out of the U.S. Nationals with a very slim lead. Congratulations to the winners here at the U.S. Nationals. For Steve Evans and Don Garlitz, I'm Paul Page. So long.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast lane fashions. Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sport.